Okay, podcast starts now. I welcome to the show, StraightioLab, the podcast. We are once again coming at you from a beautiful bi-coastal world.
Sam, you look incredible.
And we were having, thank you, you look amazing as well.
Is this shirt new?
No, it's actually so old that it's new again. I've had this shirt for roughly 11 years.
Wow, it looks incredible. I've never seen you wear it.
Yeah, because I stopped wearing it because I was like, I wear this shirt too much. And that was maybe 5 years ago.
Wow, so it was before we started our acclaimed podcast, StraightioLab.
Yeah.
Named the #1 podcast of 2022, I want to say, by New York Magazine.
God, what an amazing year. God, what an amazing year.
That was a really great year for podcasting. It's been pretty downhill since then, honestly.
Well, not for all.
No, not for us, obviously. But I just think that this, the environment, the media ecosystem has changed. Back then you could do anything.
George, you said, can I say this out loud?
Sure.
You proposed that we lie. You proposed that we lie to our listeners and say that this was recorded before the election, when in fact we are recording on the Friday after the election.
Here's what I proposed. I want to say it is 4:20. Okay, let's light them up. It is 4:20 p.m. on a Friday.
Correct.
Okay. It's been a horrible week.
Yeah.
For all.
Uh-huh.
I mean, I guess not for some, but I for us, and I presume many of our listeners. I feel not at my most sharp, I would say, cerebrally. It's this sort of like Friday afternoon slump. And so my suggestion was we record this episode, don't mention politics at all, and then later record an intro lying to our listeners saying, hey guys, like this episode was recorded before the election, but just wanted to like send out positive vibes to everyone, and just thinking of all of you, and hope everyone's staying safe and doing the best you can to cope. And then just play an episode that did not mention the election. That was what I suggested. I was immediately rebutted by Sam, who, I'm sorry, but you're who is it, George Washington or Abe Lincoln that can't tell a lie?
I think that was Abe.
Yeah, Honest Abe they called him.
No, it's not. Tim, is it not? Is it George?
It's definitely George Washington.
It's George Washington because of the cherry tree.
Oh my God. Okay.
But then is there also Honest Abe?
Well,
There's also Honest
too.
Abe. But I think he can tell a lie.
I'm capable of telling lies, but
no, you're not, Sam. I don't want to attack you, but every single time I have suggested like massaging the truth in a tiny, tiny way. You are so shocked.
George, that is not massaging the truth at all. That is fully lying. I want to say it's also like the entire point of a podcast in my mind.
No, I know.
Is addressing the times you are in. Like we are. I think that what is great about this podcast is that it literally started in COVID. You can hear like the beginning of COVID. You can hear us get out of COVID, sort of. You can hear the confusion. You can hear like all of that. And we address it as we're feeling it. And I think
no, it's true.
And I think we have a good tone when we're not like self-serious. We're not like we're sort of allowed to be little stinkers about it and be just like cranky. And I was shocked that you wouldn't want to, face this moment head on and share your feelings.
Here's what I'll say about that. First of all, it's not that I don't want to talk about it. It's that I don't feel quite ready right now. In fact, I almost texted you this the other day. I was like, would it be crazy to do a Patreon episode, where it's like just the two of us, to our most loyal listeners, and we just like commiserate and talk through our feelings in real time, but in a way that's not like clipped for Instagram, and we, sort of like have a nice little therapy session. I think in just a few days I will be ready to do that. I'm not saying like, oh, I want to just be completely apolitical and be literally like Reese Witherspoon posting like, okay, y'all vote, but no need to tell anyone for who. Like I don't. That's not what I'm saying. But I think I just need a little more time. But you know what? I think you're right. I think it's nice to get those feelings out raw and real and have it live forever on the internet. What I thought at 4:30 p.m. the Friday of the election at my most depressed.
I mean, sort of. I sort of like that is sort of what I like. I don't want us to be NPR and be like have like the smart, amazing take. I want us to have the Sam and George take. Which can be what's so amazing about comedy is that we're allowed to be unpolished, I feel. Mm-hmm. But I know what you mean. It's obviously like it's complicated. I feel that like what's confusing to me, among many other things about this time, is like the rehashing of everything, where I don't want to fall into the same trappings that we fell into in 2016. And I feel the same like genuine surprise, the same sort of isolation, and the same like, oh, I guess I really don't understand how the world works, but I don't want to. But it's not the same because I've done it already. And so it's confusing because I'm like, how do I, like the knowledge doesn't, it's almost like how we talk about self-awareness and how there's a limit to it, is I feel that like this is a time where we are all really self-aware of how we all acted in 2016, but we can't shake ourselves from sort of acting the same way. And I don't know the right way to act.
Yeah. I was talking to Tim about this before you got on. There was something galvanizing about 2016. Like everyone just like had this really deep desire to, in whatever their own way was, whether it was productive or unproductive or like genuine or completely cynical and dishonest, but everyone felt the need to like participate in some way. Mm-hmm. And what I have noticed, both in myself and in other people I've talked to this time around, is just a general numbness and a general sort of, I don't want to say feeling resigned. It's not like I want to be completely complacent and never do anything or anything like that. But it's completely unclear what the appropriate response is. And it's also like, I don't know, I don't feel shocked, to be honest. I have... Like, I don't want to be one of these people who's like, well, I always knew he was going to win. But I have felt very confident that this is how it would turn out for months. And I like, so I almost think that the first time around, the shock was almost like you could focus on the shock in a way that was almost a balm, because then you didn't have to focus on the actual substance of what happened. And now without the shock, all you're left with is like just feeling completely deflated, depressed, heartbroken, and like scared. There's not even the quote unquote excitement of like, we are living through I'm not saying excitement in a positive way, but just like the like, you know, your heart is racing because you're living through like this crazy historical moment. I don't feel that way. Like, I actually feel like it's almost like boring. Like it's like, it is like you're watching tapes of something that already happened. And you're sort of like, wow, that's crazy.
Yeah, shock would almost be healthier.
Yeah.
I agree that I think I really did try to prepare. Like, I tried to be like, I know this is a real possibility. I'm not going to be 2016 again. I'm not going to be like, there's no way in hell. But I guess I am. There just is still a small element of surprise for me where I'm like just the sort of, it's like someone finding out like 1 + 1 actually equals 3. Like, I'm like, but like I know like in theory how this works out, but in practice I'm like, but how? Like it really, I don't know. Makes me feel a bit crazy, but that's mostly what I wanted to say. I mean, your thing about the excitement also, and this is just to take shots at our peers, the Daily podcast. Of course. Yeah, we're equal in reach and value, and
Ezra Klein.
But I was actually the most 2016 thing I did was listen to the Daily on Wednesday after the election, and which really did make me feel insane, because it was like the way that the New York Times and like news is so zoomed out and sees everything from a historical perspective actually is starting to piss me off, where it's like the New York Times was like, journalist, how do you feel about this? And this woman is like, there's nothing to say except that this is amazing. This has never happened before. And this is like generally like something that is really notable. And like sort of like you have to look at it. It's magnificent in a way. And it's like, can you like, you want like literally a bomb to hit Columbus, Ohio. So you can be like, I lived through it. I was there. And it's like, calm down. Like you're like bloodthirsty for like a moment of excitement in a way that is disgusting to me.
Have you seen the Joan Didion documentary?
No.
So, of course, I'm now not remembering what essay it is, but in a very famous Joan Didion essay where she is writing about the hippies, like the Haight-Ashbury hippies in San Francisco, in a sort of through a pretty conservative gaze, I would say. She had her conservative streaks. There's a very famous scene where she describes a baby, like a small child that has been given LSD. And this is meant to be this like portrait of this like lost generation of these people that like just are depraved hippies that have, that have nothing to offer, basically, and it's just like, God, look at what America has come to. Obviously, I'm oversimplifying, but okay. And so in the documentary, the interviewer, who I think it's her nephew that made the documentary, is asking her like, what did you think when you saw that baby on LSD? And she like pauses for a second, and then she's basically like, I mean, it was incredible. Like, and she's basically like so excited that she gets this scene that perfectly encapsulates the argument that she's trying to make. And I think that's sort of what you're describing. Obviously, I think I have mixed feelings about it because I think that in order to be a good like chronicler of the world, whether that's through journalism or through documentary filmmaking or through writing or whatever, I do think you have to actually be slightly sociopathic and slightly shut off that part of your brain. I sort of am not interested in someone who's like trying to describe what's happening and constantly like breaking down in tears because of their empathy. You know what I mean?
Well,
obviously,
Well, yes. I just think there's words like magnificent and amazing and like I'm like, you can say like notable, like you can say like this is large. This will have a great impact.
No, of course.
But like, there's something so like you're like foaming at the mouth for it with some of these words.
No, it's true. It's funny. Like we're doing this is like the classic thing that you do in a state of shock, which is rather than like focus on whoever the actual real big picture enemy is, not you, all of us. Like,
sure.
It's so much easier to be mad at. For me, it's so much easier to be mad at like people online saying stupid things, like people journalists that chose a wrong headline that makes me think they are biased in some way. A podcaster, like I'm thinking like one of the reasons why I'm not necessarily in the mood to like express my very unformed opinions right now is because I know that if I was at home listening, I would also be like primed to be mad at like some dumb gay guy that's offering his first thoughts. Like it's so much easier to be mad at that proxy for the real thing you're mad at than to actually be mad at the systemic.
No, I think that's true.
Issues. Also, Tim, you can come in at any point.
Okay, should we introduce Tim Platt?
Sorry.
Please welcome to this. Is this an amazing time to be introduced, Tim?
Well, first of all, I do want to say, just being privy to the conversation before recording and this, I think you guys did a great job. I think you really covered. I think you did not do, George, what you were fearing to do, and Sam, I think you really well articulated why it's fun, not fun, but why it's good to talk about these things in the moment. And I thought you were both very, I feel what both of you were saying. And what I will say is that my first reaction was, I need to get off TikTok and Twitter stat, because I was feeling so angry. And George, like you, I had so many targets in my brain. And the first thing I saw were my podcast feed became the daily stuff, and everyone reacting. People were relitigating stuff in the moment. People were dunking on each other still. And I was like, I remember when this happened in 2016, I like joined a bunch of groups and went out for a bunch of stuff that I could not sustain. I need to get like this stuff out of my head before I'm able to realize what my body can handle doing, And I think like these last few days of being like not on TikTok, not on Twitter for the first time in my goddamn life, I'm not doing it. I'm leaving it in the room. I'm not going to the bathroom with my phone, which has become my big TikTok time. I think like move one for me was like, I need to get out of the discourse machine, or else or nothing is going to happen, or nothing can occur for my life.
Yeah. No, I think that's a good point. The conversations around it. I even feel I like almost missed that part of 2016 is like having like Twitter was a real place still. Yes, it was like nearing the end, but it was like there were like more ways of, I don't know, talking about things. I mean, I'm looking with rose-colored glasses, I'm sure, but I don't know.
Well, there was a sense of, I have to say, see, it's funny. I'm interpreting all of this with such a paranoia because I'm like, I need to stop doing that. I need to like be okay with the fact that like, whatever, we're having a conversation. If someone doesn't like it, that's fine. But even now talking about this, I'm like, I can just imagine someone being like, okay, these three like extremely safe white guys are talking about basically like self-care and like, oh, what to look at on your phone so you don't feel the stress of the election. Like it's just there's no way for that not to sound like ridiculous in the grand scheme of things. But whatever, since we're on the topic, I do think, to your point, Sam, I felt at the time like there was some form of like digital town square that you could like opt into when you wanted to feel part of a mass of people interpreting events in real time. And often it was incredibly toxic, and often it was incredibly counterproductive, I would say more than 50% of the time. But it made you feel not even less alone. It just made you, it was almost like everyone was participating in this like collaborative thinking through of reality. Yeah. And sometimes you would like contribute to it, and sometimes you would be quiet and listen to other people, and you would see people that had different opinions than your own, and maybe it would change. Also, we were all much younger. We were all in our 20s. So I think that also was a part of it, is that I was genuinely still, to some extent, forming my worldview, and that helped with that. And I do think that this time I don't feel... I think on the negative side, I don't feel like I have that. On the positive side, I actually want it less, and I'm much more okay with only talking to people that I actually know in person, and people, and just like my close community of family and friends. And I don't feel the need to go out there and be like looking for answers among strangers that, whose bios are like, something, bylines here, here, and here. Like,
yeah,
blah, blah, blah.
Yeah, totally. No, that's true. I understand your self-consciousness also about things getting taken out of context, but I think, we got to just try, I think, because we can't control it.
I have a story that I think will bring us out of election talk.
Great.
Okay. All right. So the morning after, as you said, there's this experience if you subscribe to various sort of like newsy, current events, politics podcasts, you open your podcast app the next day and it's all like what happened, what the Democrats can learn, how Trump won this Pennsylvania, like what to do about blah, blah, blah. And I was looking through that and I was like, I'm not at a place where I can, consume any of this. I need to click the one thing that isn't this. And the one thing for me was Saoirse Ronan on Fresh Air. I looked at, it was like Saoirse Ronan like talks about her 2 new Oscar films. And I was like, Saoirse, I'm counting on you. This better be such a good interview. Like, you better be giving me everything I need. You better say all the right things, because if you don't, I will break down. And so I will always remember, it's like, there are certain things I remember about the first time around that like are really, really sort of burned into my brain. And I think this time what I will remember is the next morning just like listening to an interview with Saoirse Ronan and just telling myself, just focus on this. Just for this 45-minute. Of course, afterwards you can process it. Of course, afterwards you can like move on with your life and think about how you want to be of service and think about how you want to exist in the world and read about other people's experiences. But right now, for the next 45 minutes, it is Saoirse.
Well, did she nail it? Did she?
I honestly think she did nail it. I was like, she's had an interesting life. I didn't know that she was born in the Bronx because her parents came here from Ireland, and she was born in the Bronx, and they moved back when she was still a kid, which is why she has an Irish accent.
Well, this is actually an amazing addendum to Tim to your celebs are hiding. I think celebs are hiding except Irish celebs. For some reason, Irish celebs are thriving in a way that is so crazy.
That is true. Well, there's something about Ireland that's like, it's so, what's the word?
Well, there's sort of like a poster child right now for morality.
Yeah.
Like, exactly. Yes, exactly. That's what it is. It's in both a positive way and a negative, like in the positive way in the sense that, in fact, a lot of these Irish celebrities are very charismatic and have good politics and bring a different perspective. But then there's also a way in which it's like, oh, look, it's kind of like, it's still a white person, so it's safe. Like, it's actually not like there's something very weird happening.
Yeah.
And also with all the craft of their English neighbors. And which we love. We love the English. We love the craft of the English actor, but we don't really like the English much anymore. Isn't that crazy?
Yeah, we love the rough and tumble politics of the Irish.
Exactly.
Oh,
those actors are having their cake and eating it too.
But with the diction and the accent study and the textual study of course, the English tradition.
Yeah. Well, it was funny. Saoirse, was saying that for so long in her career, she had to master all these other accents, and she was like, a few years ago, I just realized like I just want to do more roles using my own accent. And it was like this was like an empowering thing. And I was like, this is such a perfect empowerment narrative that does not challenge any American norms. Like, it's like, you know what I mean? It's like, insert other identity here. It would suddenly make us question our own biases and make us question American society. But it's like, oh, perfect. Saoirse Ronan, like beautiful blonde white woman, like thin blonde white woman who was in Lady Bird. She feels empowered because she doesn't have to fake her accent. That's something we can all get behind.
Yeah, that's really amazing. I actually was around someone recently who was reading Saoirse's name and didn't know how to pronounce it. And I was like, where have you been?
Yeah.
Like, at this point, we all know Saoirse.
Yeah, I have to say, it is like people that were up until election saying Kamala. And I was like, you need to be like chained down and made to watch 1 minute of political news.
But don't you think that it's unfair that we have to do so many accents if we want to exist at a high level in the entertainment industry?
I think it's completely unfair.
We're implicated now?
I think it's completely unfair. I'm on Tim's side.
I've never considered that.
I think it's really unfair. I saw this movie, Death of Stalin. I thought it was a very funny movie. I liked it a lot. All these people playing Russians, but they all used their natural accents, and they were able to activate what made them each interesting performers at the same time. Very collaborative movie.
I actually completely agree.
I mean, we also House of Gucci, which, everyone is supposed to be an Italian. Mm-hmm. And yet we're hearing accents of all stripes.
No, House of Gucci is perfect. If you're going to do accents, do House of Gucci. What I don't like is when it's like almost there, but then occasionally you'll get that. And it takes you out of it. House of Gucci never took me out of it because I was like, this is a cartoon.
I just watched Conclave. The Pope movie.
Okay, now that's a great movie.
There are people in it, and everyone's just doing their natural accent, and they just make it work. They make it work in the script. And so now we're seeing two different movies here. I'm talking two different movies. I'm talking Conclave, they make it work in the script, and I'm talking Death of Stalin. They don't even mention it in the script. Both allow actors of specific voice qualities to just do their thing, which is something I would like to be done for me.
Yeah, I would actually love for someone to just let me do my thing. I think that's one of the biggest problems in Hollywood today is that no one's letting me do my thing.
That's well said, Sam.
I just love Tim, as an American man, you are complaining preemptively about someone making you do a bunch of accents.
Yes.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yes.
That's why, I mean, George, not to be a bitch, but that's why Trump was elected.
That's true. Okay, let's do our first segment, get it out of the way, and then I want to get into the topic.
That sounds
How
great.
does that sound?
That sounds amazing. Tim, our first segment is called Straight Shooters, and in this segment, we're going to ask you a series of rapid-fire questions. It's basically this thing or this other thing to gauge your familiarity with and complicity in straight culture.
Okay.
The only rule is you can't ask a single follow-up question, or we will scream at you. Okay. And that's final. So, are you ready to start?
Yes.
Tim, everybody poops or nobody wants this?
Everybody poops.
Wow. Tim, truffle fries or muffled cries?
Muffled cries. Truffle fries are a scam, in my opinion.
Totally.
Don't speak by no doubt, or is that a beak or a snout?
Ooh, that's a really good question. Dang. Oof. I'm gonna go beak snout.
And by the way, that was dedicated to Tim's debut comedy album, Teeth Like Beak, out on all platforms now from Absolutely Records.
Thank you so much, George.
Okay, Tim, Reservoir Dogs or Remember Pogs?
Remember Pogs? They got banned.
Fear and Loathing.
They got banned, folks.
What's Pogs?
Pogs?
You're Greek, George.
Pogs were these circular cardboard collectibles, and that you would stack them on top of each other and slam on them a metal circular collectible known as a slammer.
I like yelling out the reason I don't know. Like, yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, I'm not disagreeing.
George, you had to be there.
Okay, Tim.
Yes.
Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas, or the cashier is closing in the bodega?
Oh gosh, I'm gonna go bodega.
New York through and through. Okay, Tim, shrimp tempura or Ace Ventura?
Ace Ventura.
I worry about the youth, or this McFlurry is satisfying my sweet tooth.
I worry about the youth.
Period.
Yeah, okay. The winter of our discontent, or this quarter, we're really focusing on TikTok content.
Winter of discontent. I love plays.
Of course.
You know, Tim, we normally rank our guests on a scale of 0 to 1,000 doves. Sam, it's interesting. Like, entering a new Trump era, I'm like, I feel the need to symbolically change.
Well, first of all, I feel the need to change everything. But for this rating scale, I 100% agree. I wish Gaga's new album was out so we could pull something from it. Because right now, I'm rating you on a scale of disease to not disease.
Yeah. Ooh, that's a good rating.
More binary.
Yeah, more binary. Just as it's pass fail. It's disease or not disease.
And I'm going to say disease.
I think disease.
I think you're very sick. I think.
Oh.
You're very sick, which is good.
Which is good.
Okay.
You're the illest, as some might say.
Oh, some might say. Yeah.
Where do you think that comes from, using illness as a metaphor for in a positive way? Like sick, ill. Like, why is that?
George, you can't ask us questions we just don't know the answers to.
Just not knowing exactly where like all the terms and all the words are how they are valenced. It was funny to me to come onto this podcast as a straight man and just whatever you all say and be like, oh yeah, okay, I'm sick.
You know what,
that's
though,
good.
Tim?
Yeah.
What you're describing now, that is out.
That's
in
out?
the second Trump era. Like, the idea of like self-flagellating as a progressive straight man, that's over.
So just being like, I don't know what you mean.
No, just truly, like, here's what I think. I think at its worst, of course, what that means is being like in the manosphere, okay?
Sure.
And being like violently toxic. But at its best, what it means is there's no more of this self-flagellating if you're in a more privileged group and you just actually talk to people person to person. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Sure.
Like...
That's a positive read, I think.
That's a positive read.
I think. Yeah.
We got there.
Yeah. I mean, there's something to it. Okay. This is hard. You guys, it's hard.
I know.
George, I the reason I want to talk up top about it is because I'm like, I don't know what else to talk about. Like, it's so top of mind that it's really hard for me to think of literally anything else to talk about. And it's hard for me to even have normal conversations without thinking of it through the lens of like,
of course,
this happening this week.
Of course.
And so I'm trying to be tasteful, but I am like,
I understand.
I'm finding myself pausing more because I'm like, oh, I don't want to say that. Well, I don't want to say that.
I know. And maybe the perfect is the enemy of the good, and it's okay that we're like imperfectly and very kind of impulsively saying whatever's on our mind. I'll say this, as someone who has avoided this kind of thing this week in my own media consumption, I'm imagining like pressing play on a comedy podcast that I want to take my mind off of things and then hearing us like stumble through what we think about Trump. You know what I mean?
So you didn't listen to Robbie Hoffman on Mark Maron yet?
Nope.
You know my asset play on that? I'm a whole different person here in LA.
I listened to. I wanted to know. I wanted to know. I wanted to say I was curious.
Wait, what did you want to know about?
What Mark would say.
Yeah, I was just curious.
About what?
Trump? I want to know what Mark's going to say.
I wanted to know what Mark would say.
You know what? Actually, this is my big point. And then, because this is actually like what it comes down to, and I think this is what a lot of my confusion is about. I do have like specific views on what the Democratic Party could do better, what I think is missing. Like, I don't think I'm the person to verbalize them, and I don't think they're complete thoughts. And so it's just, I'm not going to do it. But I'll say this. Something that is very concerning to me is that there is no like major thinker that I am craving looking towards right now. It's like, I just think in a different era, there would be like a writer who I would be excited about seeing what their big essay about it would be, or a public figure or a public intellectual that I would know, like, all right, like in a couple of weeks, their big thought, their big, take on it is coming. And I feel like the lack of leadership within, let's say, politics is mirrored by a lack of leadership out, like a lack of moral and intellectual leadership outside of politics. Universities are like a husk. Like, there's no academics that I trust. There are no, everyone on, cable news and everyone that's like supposed to be commenting on the news like a complete hack. Like, it is, you start to see why there's this vacuum that has been filled by like people like Joe Rogan.
But see, this is why you need to be speaking, because that's actually a really good point. Like, I haven't considered this yet, and it's like
But don't you
I
think,
fully
like,
agree. I fully agree
Yes.
that even in like 2016, I would be like, okay, I want to read what this person's saying. I want to read what this person's saying.
Yes.
This is incisive. Now I'm like, I don't trust anyone because I know everyone's like just trying to sell a book. Like, I really, and
Yes,
like also
everyone's trying to sell a book.
they only get that book because they got more Twitter followers, because they were more insane for the 2 weeks after the election. Like, it all is false. And because there's no like quality control, it's just who has the most numbers. Everything, I don't trust anyone.
This is why, and I know this is like that sort of self-care thing you were talking about, George, but it is a reason why I was like, I need to get off these platforms now, and that needs to be my step one, is because I'm impressionable. I want everyone who I follow during this time, I don't want to hear from them because I feel really played. I think I developed a naive optimism about this, that like my experience and my knowledge tells me it's not true, and I allowed a lot of internet talk to like get me pushing in different directions. And I do feel like, I think that's 100% true. There's like everyone who I was like sort of checking to see what they were saying about every moment of the election coming up, I'm like, I don't want to hear from them. I don't care what they have to say. And I know what happens when I follow down that path. And it's like, there's a version of like, whatever answer I'm going to find, it's not going to be on those platforms. And I need to like practice being away from them and practice what it means to be, engage without consuming this type of stuff. Because I've been consuming since 2016. I've been consuming obsessively since 2016.
Oh, there's a pandemic of consumption.
Yeah, I mean,
if there's one thing we're all doing, it's
consuming. We cannot stop consuming. That actually, there used to be points in people's lives where they weren't consuming back in the 90s, and now we don't have that. Tim, right. I have a question. You're as someone who is silly,
sure.
Do you feel that it was a trap for this to be your episode?
So my first thought was that I was on Las Culturistas like early after the election of Trump in 2016.
Oh my God.
No way.
I was, and I remember being like, I guess we just got to call every day. We got to call every day. Our son's got to call every day. And I was like, this is just sort of this is sort of what's been happening. I think I'll get on like
these parallels.
Yeah, there's like a, and I mean it because these are like high, and for my work, high profile podcasts, where I'm like, oh great, I want to do well on these podcasts because they're so funny and fun, and we get to be thoughtful, and then, I guess I gotta.
Oh my God, Tim, we're like fucking you. Okay.
No.
Right.
No, can I tell you what I thought when we were talking? I was thinking, and Sam will appreciate this. I was like, this is just. I gotta take it as a suggestion. I gotta take it as a gift, as an improv gift. I gotta find a way to respond.
The improviser spirit came through.
All right, Tim. This is we simply must ask you, what is your straight topic and what is straight about it?
I'm so glad to talk about this today. I'm so glad to talk about this today. And I will say, for the last time, I think you guys have done a great job talking about this, at least for my little ears.
I think you've done a great job as well, Tim.
Thank you so much. I wanted to talk about acoustic covers.
Acoustic covers.
Powerful. And I want to talk about acoustic covers because I've done a lot of acoustic covers in my life. I love the acoustic guitar. It's like it is an instrument I use on stage. It's an instrument I use for comedy. It's an instrument I use for my soul. And I think, A, people are too hard on people doing acoustic covers, and B, I do.
So you're defending them?
Well, I do defend
Justice for acoustic covers. Wow.
Well, I do defend.
Trump's America.
Literally.
I defend the hate, but I also honor. No, I don't honor. The reason why I want to bring it up as a straight topic is because I think there are a lot of straight men in this world who believe an acoustic cover is the only way they can be artistic or C, emotional in any public sphere, and it drives them crazy. So they'll do it like the Barbie movie famously lampooned.
Yes.
They'll do it at a party. They'll do it at a fire. They'll do it they'll do it when it's unwanted, but it's because it's coming from a place of, this is my only way. This is the only time that I'll be able to share anything emotional, artistic, or creative in their goddamn lives. And I think it's a very straight. I think there's plenty of people who do acoustic covers very artfully, but that sort of impulse to do, like, I have to do a bad acoustic cover and post it on YouTube. Like, there's so many YouTubes of bad acoustic covers. Why?
Yeah,
that's interesting to me.
Well, there's something about being straight where you're like, well, I did it. Like, you didn't think I could do that, and I did that.
Yeah, yes.
And I think it's like you're like, I'm just a normal guy, and look, but I did the guitar. Yes. And everyone's like you're like, people need to see that I can do this.
Yes.
Yeah. There's a certain, of course, this is adjacent to the quest for authenticity. Like, it is, you think by stripping down a song, and not including all the various like technological digital elements, you are making it more pure. And of course, you think you are the right person to make it more pure. I think you're absolutely right that it is one of the most like socially sanctioned ways for a straight man to be vulnerable. Mm-hmm. I'm trying to think of what other ones are. I think like, I think my mind is going to like travel essays or something. Like, there's something like, what is a way you can retain your masculinity while doing something creative? It's like, it's a certain kind of poetry, perhaps.
A certain kind of cooking.
Like, certain kind of cooking.
Yeah.
Yes, barbecuing.
Yeah.
Literally barbecuing.
Barbecuing.
Like, acoustic covers are the barbecuing of music.
Yeah.
Because barbecuing is also, in a similar way, there's no like, oh, you're not fussy and using different cute little spices and like sauteing. Like, you are just taking a slab of meat and then bursting it with heat.
Yeah.
And there's also, so another topic, I had texted Sam about this, another topic I thought about doing, which now I'm realizing is connected, is being actually into something. So that being like, I actually think that's pretty cool, or like, I'm actually kind of into fiction right now. Like, that sort of feeling of caveat. And so it's like, I think acoustic covers and barbecuing, they are like a caveat. I'm allowed to do a very normal thing. It's like, I'm allowed to be persnickety about the spices I use on this barbecue. I'm allowed to be persnickety about like, I'll be artful about how I want it to look. I want that char. Like, oh, now I'm allowed to let you look at me for 3 minutes for this song. I'm allowed to look. This all comes from watching a lot of YouTube. I'm allowed to like look at them, look at to the camera and like smile for the first time in my life. It's like it's what this thing will allow me to be expressive in a way that is actually very normal, but feels like it needs to have a caveat to actually be said.
Yeah.
I mean, the actually caveat also is like, there's something so like, you probably didn't think I was like this. Like, there's like a defensive to it that feels very straight to me, where it's like, why? Like, I could have thought that.
Well, it's also a shortcut for depth. It's like, okay, so it's like, oh, I don't know how to actually form a sentence saying how I feel, but actually it's even more deep that I'm pulling out my guitar and doing an acoustic cover.
Yes.
Like it's like a shortcut to seeming like in the eyes of the beholder of the acoustic guitar to seeming more interesting than you are.
And it's also an expectation and an entitlement to glory and applause. There, and you can see in the craft as like stand-ups. I think you maybe connect to this, that it's like when you fail so much doing comedy, you get like it sucks, it's horrible, it's not fun, but you do like develop a way of managing that and an understanding that you could bomb at any moment, even if you're doing really well. And it's funny to me to watch other crafts where bombing isn't a thing. Even though you can do badly, but like there's all these different barriers for not feeling that. And I think acoustic guitars are a really vulnerable way for people to express that. Like, you can see them clenched up, they're not loose. They're like, if someone after they did the cover was like, that sucked, like you should have why didn't you tune your guitar before you did this? You can see there's no preparation for that. And as a comedian, I'm very interested to see who knows how to like move around a performative failure, a performance failure. And there's like seemingly no space for an acoustic guitar to be a performance failure, except later when you're like, I can't believe I saw that person do that.
Yeah, I think, so in that sense, it's interesting it's like, on the one hand, it is a sign of vulnerability, or it has been prescribed this connotation of vulnerability. On the other hand, as you're saying, it's actually the most guarded you can be, because the acoustic guitar is like a protection against criticism. Like, actually, if you're playing the acoustic guitar and if you're doing an acoustic cover, everyone is required to be silent and just sort of like vaguely looking at you.
Yes.
There's no, except for a few exceptions, it's not going to be amazing or terrible. It's going to be sort of down the middle.
Mm-hmm.
It's not a huge risk because you're not playing some crazy instrument or doing some crazy thing with your voice. You're usually like sort of going right down the middle. So it is like, it's based on this like essential lie.
Here's something I'm thinking about. Like, before there was a practical use of like an acoustic guitar at the campfire, it's like there's, we don't have speakers out here in the woods, so like maybe for some music we can play guitar by the campfire. With the advent of the Bluetooth speaker, the wireless waterproof Bluetooth speaker, do you think that acoustic guitars will go extinct?
That's a good question. That there is actually not really, at least in my life, a legitimate space for anyone to be like, hey, can we play a few songs for you? There's like, oh, let's play together. We all play, we all sing. But the idea of like, let me play a song for you in a casual setting, that only seems like tyranny to me. That only seems like a grave misstep. Which is why I see more of it on YouTube, and that becomes a whole like media thing than I actually see. Because like, and even I'll have my guitar and someone will be like, and there have been times that people will be like, oh, will you play a song? And I'm like, I don't know songs. I don't like, I haven't learned songs. I can do my acts, but like, you don't know
Wonderwall?
I know Wonderwall. I know how to play Wonderwall.
Bitch.
I know how to play
Unbelievable.
Wonderwall. I know how to play Wonderwall.
Okay, but the Wonderwall thing, I want to address something, which is, this happens a lot on this podcast, which is so often, emblems of heterosexuality become so cliched as things one criticizes that it almost is like more toxic to criticize them than to not criticize them.
George?
I feel this way about people making fun of the book Infinite Jest. It became this like symbol of like a book boys read, and it's like, actually, by the way, many women have read that book, and there is a reason why it's popular, and you can like debate it, but like we have gone so far away from the initial thing being criticized that it actually is now just a cop-out if you want to sound interesting to just like use it as a reference.
This is such a great point. This is such a great point.
I think the acoustic guitar thing, something I struggled with honestly during the Barbie movie, which I had to get over myself because ultimately it's for children and who cares. But in the moment I was like, this is the oldest, most hack possible joke you could put in here.
They did it well. That joke did it well, though.
I have a few thoughts.
No, it did.
I have a few thoughts about all of that. First of all, I completely agree that like there are these like templates of criticism that become hack because you can tell someone wants the glory of razzing somebody without the thoughtfulness, and you're like, okay, well, sure. I will say more about Wonderwall is that I've been feeling the way you've been feeling for a while, because this other side to my feeling about the acoustic guitar is that like, if this is the first time someone's ever been able to express themselves in their mind and Wonderwall was the way, that's a good thing. That's like that's a fine entry point to life. I'm sorry you had to hear it at a time you didn't want it. I really think that sucks. That's bad. But as a song, that it invited people towards it in a way that I actually think is kind of special and cool. And I will go as far as say that a reason that I like talking about this is because I do think guitars, ukuleles, these instruments that we have to suffer through so often are many people's first experience, not only being creative, but also playing music and performing it at all. And I think being creative and performing and playing music are all really wonderful things. And if these are low-level ways to get into it without having to be experts, and I think that is actually a very special thing. I gave some guitar lessons to some friends during COVID, and that was very moving to watch them learn a few chords and start playing stuff on their own. And I like found myself talking in this way that like, oh, that's what's so special about the guitar. Is that you can really take a few things and then you can start writing your own songs. And I do think that's true. You can learn very limited things and then start making something, which I think is worthy of being celebrated. And lastly, I think the Barbie part was funny because there was so many people doing it at once.
It was so many people doing it at once.
True.
That was funny. That was funny.
That was always funny.
And I will go as far to say that, like, I found the Just Ken song to be a real dud because it came after what I found to be a very funny musical comedy moment of all the guitars. And then we have like an actual written song that I actually didn't like very much. So how about that?
First of all, I love that. I love the point that we should almost celebrate people experiencing creativity for the first time rather than make fun of them.
Completely.
Because it's like, what would you rather have them do? Commit mass violence? No, let them read a book or play guitar or whatever. And this, Tim, I think is also what you're so good at, is like you are someone who plays acoustic guitar and is like knows the bad version of the guy who plays the acoustic guitar at the party, but it also is you are that guy, but you aren't that guy, and you can like sort of dip in and out of being this guy.
Yeah, I appreciate that. That took, frankly, a lot of work to figure out on stage how to do that. And there was a lot of like, and there was honestly a big part of it was just saying, I know. You have a guitar, you just say, I know a few times and sort of feel it. Yeah. It's actually very clowning. You just go, I know. I know, we're going to do it. And then also doing very short songs proves to people that you're not trying to waste their time. Because I think like a gripe I have about musical comedy generally is that it often doesn't respect people's time, I think. I think there's a few people who do it really, really well, but we've all been the thing where it's like, okay, well, after we heard the chorus, that the joke's done, I don't want to hear verse 2. I don't want to hear the second chorus again. And I think just short songs prove to an audience that like, you're not gonna push it because audiences are very defensive against acoustic guitars, which I get.
Of course. Yeah. I'm like, I want to know like when you were less self-aware Is there like a time when you have brought out the acoustic guitar that, in retrospect, you're like, damn, that is so embarrassing? Because I have one.
What's yours?
Well, needless to say, in college, me and my boys were acoustic guitar heads.
Okay.
I was horrible at it, but I knew some chords.
Yeah.
And literally, like, I have one night in particular that I think about, and it makes me feel so shameful. Where we went to a public part of campus at 9 p.m. and it was like dark, and we just played, and people some people came and sat and just watched for a sec, and then they'd sing along, and then they'd walk away, and I left that night being like, man, college is amazing. This is what community should be.
Yeah.
And I find it now, I wish I could remember what songs we were singing, but they were certainly Wonderwall adjacent. It wasn't Wonderwall because even then that's cheesy, but it was close.
I just want to defend Wonderwall for a second, because here's the thing. One thing we haven't touched upon is the acoustification of dare I say, hip hop and other genres of music, because talk about a certain kind of straight valence is thinking you are, if not improving upon, then sort of fucking with literally a Run DMC song by making it acoustic and being sort of cheeky about it. It's this very 2000s, 2010s.
I'm thinking Ben Folds,
Pentatonics,
Bitches Ain't Shit. I'm thinking
yes, exactly.
The Dancing on My Own cover.
Yes, the Dancing on My Own cover. Even I feel there's so many acoustic covers of Toxic by Britney Spears.
Yeah.
I feel people were doing that for a while.
The Hey Ya, the famous Hey Ya cover.
Oh my
wow.
God. Yes. So to me, and I don't want to limit people's creativity, because I do think it's interesting to hear something and hear a different take on something. But I'm why are we stigmatizing Wonderwall when that's what the acoustic guitar was built for?
And you know what I think that very thing, I remember it very clearly. I would play in bands in high school where the other acts were people who were just doing acoustic covers of rap and hip hop, and and getting a lot of attention for it. And what I think that cultural moment did was tell country music that it was okay to start incorporating this, talking the Florida Georgia line type stuff, because now so much country music is hip hop influenced. Their production, their beat, their vocal cadences, even the sort of type of speak rapping that happens in country music happens a lot more than Lin-Manuel Miranda isn't the only one bringing hip hop to different forms. Country music is they want that. They that became very much a huge part about current country music, I think. And I think that is straight up because people doing these cute covers show that if we just sing it like that, isn't that amazing? If we sing Gin and Juice like this, it's actually a beautiful song.
Yeah.
Well, I think this is also, and again, this feels a bit, a bit Obama era as a critical modality, but there is something about acoustic guitar that is it is, considered straight and white.
Yeah.
Okay. So then when you use it to cover a song that is not that, or when you use it even to cover a song that normally would be more electronic or poppy or whatever, it is a way of it's that kind of, it's making unseasoned food. It's that kind of thing. It's you're taking something and you're getting rid of the flavor.
Yeah.
And I think that was the reaction against it when it became such a common enemy.
You're gentrifying a song.
You're gentrifying. Yes, yes, that is very well put.
Yeah.
You're gentrifying a song. And I think currently what's happening is a reevaluation of that kind of critique, wouldn't you say?
Sure.
Now if someone was oh, so and so is gentrifying a song, I'd be well, that sounds like a pretty vacuous critique. Let's look into that a little bit more.
Yeah.
Why are you reacting this way? This seems like something that is a statement that is perfectly made to like go viral on social media, but what are you actually saying? Ultimately nothing.
Well,
Right.
That's true, and that's something I've been thinking about recently with TikTok being a huge platform for distributing music, is that, Me Espresso is a novelty song. Like, that's part of the big songs on TikTok tend to be, in my opinion, sort of like they're pop songs, but like they are also novelty. They're made with an air of joke. They're made with an air of jest. They're made with an air of a clever turn of phrase. They're made with an air of like, can you believe someone put this to music? There's a lot of people who I silently don't like on TikTok who make music, which are all like, can you believe we're like being kind of gross while singing in the style of a pop song? We're really talented musicians, but we're talking about like sort of poopy and pee-pee. Haha. And I think like the idea of the novelty song is, what am I trying to say? I think that novelty songs exist as like a separate form that has like sort of like not infected, but that TikTok has allowed to sort of get into all these different spaces to our public consciousness, where it's like, where it's not even a novelty song anymore. It's just like, that's just how that's the songwriting people do at a consistent clip, because you can post stuff at a whatever I just said, a consistent clip on these social media platforms where people are hearing music for the first time, rather than the radio or the campfire with your friends. And to answer your question, Sam, I actually think I got a lot of like attention from playing guitar often. So like, I'm not embarrassed by a lot of it, because at the time I knew it was the juice I needed to get what I wanted. But I would just like play it on the like in the hallways of my high school.
You were playing it in high school
for no one. Yeah.
That is so. I see it. I can see it all so clearly.
Yeah. Legs.
Here's my call to everyone out there. The harp.
Oh.
We need to replace the acoustic guitar with the harp. If I'm at a campfire, bring a harp.
I'm going to send you some clips of Harpo Marx right now, and I want to see how you react to it.
We're in a Florence and the Machine. We need a Florence and the Machine renaissance.
I want to agree with you, but here's what I want to go in a more a different direction. I'm ready for stomps and claps. I want to be sitting around the campfire and people to be sort of patting on their knees and doing little sort of nursery rhyme style songs. This, I think, is accessible to all. There's no economic barrier of entry, and you can never forget your hands and knees.
I'm gonna take you a step.
Class analysis.
I'm gonna take you a step further. I would like to see more single woodwinds used in a collective.
I'd like to see everyone take out a recorder, and I want everyone to harmonize at the campfire. Everyone with their own recorder.
Well, that sounds amazing, actually.
You know, what's a joke I tried to do a lot in stand-up that never worked because it's a bad joke? So I know the saxophone is a woodwind. Why is it the most brass fucking sounding woodwind I've ever fucking heard in my fucking life? And that rhythm was very important to what I thought was successful with the joke.
Damn. That's good. I get it.
Samuel, I think you're maybe one of the only people who would appreciate
Tim,
that one.
I hate to say this, but we're running out of time here. So any final thoughts, or Sam, on acoustic guitar covers?
Final thoughts on acoustic guitar covers. I would just have to say, I think they're best when you're alone. I think they're best when you're alone. I will like sing songs to myself alone, and I think that's a very special experience. And I hate that I fucking talk like that about it. But
what about potentially, you're married to a woman, potentially in a romantic setting?
She does not
like your music.
She likes my music. She just doesn't need it all the time, and she hears it through the walls. She's got her own thing going. There was actually one time recently when I was like, I wrote a new song. Can I show it to you? And she said, okay. And then did something else for a little while. And I was like, hey, I actually asked you to listen to the song. And she was like, I had something else to do. And I was like, but now I've just been waiting here with the guitar. And she was like, you're acting like a diva right now. And I said, yes, I am. I don't. And I was like, I never asked you to listen to my music, and this is the one time I do. And we had a little conversation about
And
it.
there are other men that would have that experience, and it would take them immediately to the manosphere. And I just want to say, thank God for straight men like Tim Platt.
Wow.
Yeah.
Here. I have no choice but to accept. Wow. How about that?
Well, should we do our final segment?
I think we must. Tim, our final segment is called Shoutouts. This is a segment where we pay homage to the great straight oral tradition of the radio shoutout. You're at Z100 shouting at your friends back home. You're on TRL. And so we're all going to go and do one. We think of them on the spot. That's the rule. I don't have one. Sam, do you have one?
Do I have one? That is a tough question.
This is a hard game for today.
I mean, it's one of the hardest
This is a really
questions
hard
I've
game
ever asked.
for today.
But we can do it.
Okay. What's up, freaks, losers, and perverts around the globe? I want to give a shout out to my brain and my memory and my ability to see pattern. I think growing is amazing and it's so cool. So for election night, you start watching the news and you're like, I feel this pit in my stomach that I felt before. And it's like, actually, I don't have to watch this shit. In fact, I can just turn this off and just like try to sleep. And yes, I'll be uncomfortable. And yes, I'll like be a little stressed, but it's like so much better to know yourself and to know that like trying to make yourself suffer to feel more in control is actually not more in control and actually more out of control. I find myself, we're seeing a pattern here, we're seeing some repetition, and it's fun to sort of be like, okay, I've done this before, what do I do this time? I feel smarter, I feel more prepared, and I feel the same amount of bummed out, but I think I'm better equipped for it because of my brain and learning and pattern. XOXO, Sam.
What's up, freaks and losers out there? I want to give a shout out to, it's been mentioned already, the film Conclave. Oh, baby, when I tell you this is what I like to call a perfectly middle-brow film. I went in, it massages your brain the exact right amount. So you are activated, you are thinking, but you're not challenged too much, and you're also not insulted or condescended to. It is, I cannot recommend it more. I don't know how it'll hit post-election, because it is, of course, famously about an election where there is a Trumpian figure, but I'm telling you, I watched it last week, and I had the time of my damn life. Ray Fiennes is one of our great actors. Even though he's always been there, I don't think of him when I think of my top 5 actors, but honey, he's up there. Stanley Tucci, great actor. I don't think this is his best performance, but he's pretty good. Isabella Rossellini has this Tilda Swinton-esque vibe where she just like is herself playing a character at all times, but it works. It doesn't take you out of it. You're just like, oh my God, isn't it so funny that is Isabella Rossellini in a nun costume? And I don't know, I want to, maybe this is how we save Hollywood, is adapt more like middle of the road airport novels, but elevate them just enough to make them Oscar movies. Don't make them Netflix movies. Like, try to elevate them, but make them accessible to everyone.
We need to ban Netflix movies. Let's start there.
Ban Netflix movies unless, anyone wants to get in touch. But otherwise ban them.
Otherwise ban them.
I completely...
And shout out to the Catholic Church, because you guys are doing incredible
amazing work.
I completely agree. I think Ray Fiennes is fantastic. I think his performance in Grand Budapest Hotel is one of like my top tier. I think it's so funny and has so much dignity, and mixing those two is really hard. Mm-hmm. I will say I have a few quibbles about Conclave, but all I understand are to create the piece that it is. What I will say about Conclave is that I do think the politics of the Pope, of the cardinals, bishops of the conclave were veered a little too close to modern, sensible political brands. And I'm into Catholic shit for weird Catholic opinions. And I would have liked a little more strange Catholic perspectives than ones that we could be like, well, those are the liberals and those are the conservatives.
But that's what I mean about it being perfectly accessible.
Exactly.
It's like you literally have to know nothing about the world that it's portraying, which is like what makes it so middlebrow. Like,
yes.
It is not. It doesn't challenge you. Like it is like a very interesting and moderately well written and exciting and thriller-esque hour and a half at the movies.
I just wish there was like one person at one time who was like and also let's get rid of all the relics in the papacy. No more promoting the relics. Pieces of
Tim, you can't have it all.
That's true. That's certainly true.
All right, Tim, whenever you're ready.
Fuck. Damn. Hold up.
Yeah, totally.
Give me 1 second. You know what? I want to shout out my little notebook. Every morning I open up my little notebook, and often I don't write in it. But recently I've been writing in it every day because sometimes to actually have like a focus point away from everything else and to actually write nonsense or your literal feelings or your little lists of things to do, and when you time it, that's like fun, and you can put a sticker on top of it, and you can like pile them on top of each other, and you know what? And maybe, and just maybe, if you start writing that notebook every day, you could write your very own conclave. And just maybe, if you write in your notebook every day, you can start writing down patterns you see, and then you go back. I believe it was a character in The Importance of Being Earnest who said, "Of course, I have a notebook, but one must always have something exciting to read on the train." Now, I'm not going to go that far. I'm not going to read a notebook that much, and not more than I'll read fiction, which I adore. but I think the beginning of all of it starts in the simple pages of your local notebook.
Woo! No, I love that.
Wow.
And I sometimes I am like, ooh, I would love to go back and read that journal entry. I bet it's so juicy. And then I go back and read it, and I'm like, that sucked.
No, I like barely finished that. I won't. It's like all clauses that like jump to different clauses that are like different voices, you know?
Yeah, it's not amazing work, but hopefully one day it gets published posthumously.
Ring the Joan Didion alarm. Tim's debut comedy album, Teeth Like Beak, is now out on all platforms. I was lucky enough to perform at the release party for it in in New York's Brooklyn borough. And everyone should go listen to it on Bandcamp or Spotify or wherever, especially Spotify, so Tim can get 0.00001 cent for it. That would be really great.
Yeah.
You can buy it on Bandcamp, and if you're just gonna, you can also stream it on Bandcamp. But if you're gonna do it on Spotify, I get it.
Yeah, it's easier, but you guys buy it. Seriously,
please,
got the money.
Buy it.
Well, thanks so much, Tim. This has been a real treat.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
Sorry the timing's bad.
I appreciate being here with you both. I think you're both smart and funny, and so it was nice to be here and talk.
We think you're smart and funny, and we wish we could all be in the same room.
Yeah, that would be nice.
Yeah.
Would have been nice to, feel that physical closeness. Yeah. At a time like this.
Now more than ever. With everything going on.
Now more than ever is not going away. That's staying put.
It's beyond back.
I actually am
it's
back
beyond
to saying it. I'm saying it earnestly and fully.
Yeah.
Now more than ever. I mean, I'm back to saying with everything.
Mm-hmm. Yes. Wow.
Which is so, I'm disgusted with myself. But that's neither here nor there. We love podcasting through it all. Bye.
Bye.
StraightioLab is a production by Will Ferrell's Big Money Players Network and iHeart Podcasts.
Created and hosted by George Civeris and Sam Taggart.
Executive produced by Will Ferrell, Han Sani, and Olivia Aguilar.
Co-produced by Bei Wang.
Edited and engineered by Adam Avalos.
Artwork by Michael Fales and Matt Grubb.
Theme music by Ben Kling.